Natalie with the Fifth Journey, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about turnout and what muscles to think about using in parts of your legs when you're turning your body out. This is for ballet foundations, dance foundations, and I talk more about this in the previous video, so if you haven't watched that one, it's a little bit longer, but watch that one because I'm not going to go into everything with that one. So what I will probably do, depending on the lighting, is I may do some close-ups in a different setting. What we're going to talk about is the seat and the pelvis and tucking, not tucking, neutral pelvis, turning out. What happens a lot in dance, especially with younger individuals, is they're told to squeeze their bottom. And squeezing your bottom is not what you want to think about, because what happens is that usually ends up tucking the pelvis under and it bends the knees, and also you lose a lot of your control of your legs to do the things that you need to do. So you really want to think about a neutral pelvis. Now, a neutral pelvis, if you are used to walking around like this with your abs not engaged, this is not a neutral pelvis, okay? So a neutral pelvis is when you have everything in line with your core, but you're not squeezing so much that you're tucking under. Hopefully that makes sense. We don't walk like this. This is not a natural way to walk. But if we're just hanging out and standing, a lot of times we're like this, right? We're not really thinking about it. And a lot of individuals, I actually see this on my own kids. My kids don't do dance, they actually do karate, which is amazing for them. But I see it with them because they did not grow up with dance, so they do stand like this a lot. And this is really a pretty natural position for a lot of people. With dance, this is not going to help you do a lot of things because there's literally nothing engaged. My abs are not engaged, my legs are not engaged, I actually feel myself hyperextending. That is not where I want to be when I'm at the bar or when I'm performing or when I'm dancing. So, and a lot of this is to protect myself, to protect my body. With this, first things first, 4-step check we talked about in the last video. Chin is lifted, shoulders are down, abs are engaged, core is engaged, weight on the balls of your feet. So we're going to talk a lot about this and our seat and our turnout. So first things first, go to your parallel position, pick up your feet, drop them up into your first position, okay? The rotation comes from your hip socket. It does not come from your knees, it does not come from your feet. Don't rotate from your feet, don't rotate from your knees. Everything rotationally comes from right here, okay? So abs, think about where your swimsuit hits you. That's where you're going to squeeze in, and you're going to create that zipper that holds everything in. Ribs are nice and quiet, nothing is flared out. Shoulder blades are down and nice and quiet, right? Okay, so the rotation. Go back to first position. All I want you to do is, and I'm going to break a rule here, you know how I say weight on the balls of your feet. For this, you need to have your weight on your heels. Just pick up your toes, drop them open, and go back. Drop them open, go back. So I want you to kind of feel what muscles are causing that action to happen, because those same muscles are what you need to use when you do a battement or a passe. You don't want to grip certain muscles, which we'll get into another time, but think about that rotation through here. One visualization that works really well is think of a candy cane or a barbershop pole. So you have a candy cane or a barbershop pole, you have the white and the red ribbons, right? And there's a spiral, it's constantly spiraling, right? Think of your legs as either a candy cane or a barbershop pole. So your muscles, just visualize your muscles going outwards. So opposite directions. So those red lines, think about that going outwards. As I turn my feet out, I'm going to rotate. Think about pulling everything out there, right? Now I'm going to let that go, unwind, and rotate forward. So what I have to think about is I want to take the muscles on the inside and put them on the back side. All right, so if I think, okay, I need my inner thighs to end up back here, obviously that's not going to happen, but it's a good visualization. So if I'm here, I'm going to rotate everything out, and that gives me my turnout. It also helps engage my seat. Now the difference between engaging your seat versus squeezing your bottom is huge. So if I say turn out, squeeze your bottom, this is what happens. Can you see this at all? Hopefully you can. So I squeeze my bottom, I probably have that big dent right there, and my pelvis is locked. Also, my ankles are rotating forward. I can feel it in the backs of my knees, and I'm gonna have a hard time effectively doing anything from here, doing tanjus, whatever, because I am so squeezed that I can't do anything. So relax that, rotate outwards. Take your leg to your natural second position. And I just want you to take your leg parallel and rotate it back. Now I'm not putting a lot of energy in my leg. Yes, it's straight. Yes, my foot is pointed, but I'm not squeezing so hard that I'm hyperextending my leg and pressing into my opposite leg. You don't want to do that, okay? So all I want you to do is think about rotating, take it forward, rotate it back. Take it forward, rotate it back. Now think about those muscles. I'm gonna take these muscles, put them back here. Take these muscles, put them back here. Now I'm not squeezing my seat, but I am still engaging my seat. See the difference? Do you feel the difference? And this is where a mirror comes in really, really handy. I'm going to turn around. Hopefully with the lighting you can see. So here, see I have that rotation right there. My seat is turning and lifting, okay? So same thing here. I'm rotating out, rotate in, rotate out, but I'm not squeezing under. Do you see that difference? This is not what I want because I can't move in this position. Also, this is tucking under, this is not a neutral pelvis, all right? And if I have my seat out, that hyperextends my legs. My weight is not where it needs to be, okay? So think about that tailbone facing down, okay? So that rotation is going to come in very important. It's going to be very important. It's going to come into play once we start doing the battements and things like that, which we will talk about. So really think about that rotation. Going into this, we're going to talk a little bit about pliés, because that rotation is really going to matter right here, the demi-plié. So demi-plié, what I want you to think about doing, we have that rotation, we're not tucked under, we're not squeezing so much that everything is pressed forward, right? So find your form, 4-step check. What I want you to do is just do your plié and then come up. I see this at the bar a lot. It's like, okay, you're doing a plié, you're bending your legs, but you're not actively doing it. You're just going through the motions, okay? There are things that you need to think about while you're doing pliés to make them an effective exercise. Yes, it is a stretch. It helps you obviously stretch muscles, but it also helps you with your leaps when you're doing petit or grand jetés, anything like that. So when you're doing your plié, what I want you to think about doing, when you go down to your demi, a nice wide diamond, trying to track your feet, not your feet, your knees over the tops of your feet. What I want you to think about doing is that barbershop pull. So as I plie, I want to think about wrapping my muscles back towards the wall behind me. And as I come up, I'm going to disengage that. I'm going to let them come undone, right? So as I plie, I'm going to rotate, pressing my knees to that back wall, and then release it, okay? So as I rotate, taking those muscles out, I want to think about engaging my seat. It's lifted, it's not tucked under. This is not what I want, okay? Because then this is not going to help me in leaps later on, right? Because I don't want to see this in the petit de l'egre. It wouldn't work very well. So make sure you're rotating out, pressing those knees to the back wall, and then relaxing it as you come in, okay? Second part, that's the going down, right? Knees go back. Coming up, I want you to press your heels into the floor. Granted, my weight isn't exactly, you know how I've said you want to focus on the weight forward, but with this, it's an effective exercise to help you with your leaps. So plie, press those knees back, and as I come up, I'm going to disengage those muscles in my thighs to come up, and I'm going to press into the floor. Now I'm lengthening at the same time. I'm not pressing down and staying down, right? So I'm pressing down, think about it in a rubber band. So I'm pressing through my heels, but I'm also extending up like I'm a carousel horse. So I have that line, carousel horse, I have a line going all the way through my body. I'm plieing, knees are going back, I'm extending up, and I'm pressing into the floor, and that is going to be tremendous for your leaps. If you felt it, because I do, I am engaging my seat, and I am engaging my inner thighs. So right now, I'm still pressing down. I'm lifted through here. I didn't lose my abs, but I can feel it all the way through my legs, and that's going to help with those jumps later on, okay? So again, rotate backwards and press and lift. So pressing into the ground with those heels, but lifting up through the leg, lifting up through the body. So think about that rubber band. You are stretching it out, opposition. This really, really comes into play. If you've ever heard anybody say, use the floor, that is exactly what they mean, especially if you're doing battements. They say, press through the floor. That, and I've said this before too, that is where it comes from. So if you think about that lift, that opposition of pressing into the ground like we just did, and then lifting up, that is where the motion comes from, not from squeezing the legs. So this right here, right there, is the motion that you want to learn. That is such an important part of dance. They will help you in so many different areas, okay? So that is a lot to think about from today. So we'll see you again next time. Thank you for joining me. We were just talking about using the muscles and turning your leg out, working on that turnout with working with the seat. However, the lighting wasn't the best in there, and I want to do a quick visualization so you can work on this in your own home in front of a mirror. With that second position, that tendu from second, so I'm not squeezing anything here, but I'm going to lift with my seat and rotate. I'm trying not to use my arm because there's a shadow, but I'm going to rotate that muscle, my thigh muscle, and the seats, like we talked about, to get that turnout. But I'm not squeezing my behind to tuck my pelvis under, okay? So making sure that you're rotating, you're lifting, but that is very different than squeezing. Now going into your plie, so again, we're lifting up through the thighs, through the glutes, and the quadricep, and we're rotating out. So here I'm just standing normally, and then I'm going to lift and I'm going to rotate, but that is not the same as tucking under and squeezing. So this is what I see a lot with younger dancers. When you say squeeze your seats, they end up tucking their pelvis under and you lose that neutral pelvic position. So making sure you're rotating out and you're lifting so then you can do those plies without losing your form.